Hey everyone, this is Lauren Schrader. I know I've been kind of absent from YouTube lately. It's because I've been very, very, very depressed thanks to my wonderful bipolar disorder, and that has been causing me extreme amount of exhaustion, and I haven't been motivated to do anything. But anyways, people on my Discord were talking about resonant frequencies and getting rid of them, how to spot them, stuff like that. Um, So this tutorial is going to be on how to find and get rid of resonant frequencies. Um, this tutorial requires an EQ, which every single audio workstation is going to have. But in particular, I think that you absolutely need FabFilter Pro Q. Any version will work; it doesn't matter. Um, uh, I have chosen a piano for this tutorial because pianos are the one thing that are always, 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 always going to give you resonant frequencies. Um, uh, that distracted me. You'll always hear resonant frequencies in pianos, and especially once you start adding delay and reverb to them, you will get a shit ton of resonant frequencies. So we're going to get started with that. We'll throw on some delay on this piano. This piano is from my track Leave Me Behind, which was released at the end of 2019. So if you want to hear what this piano sounds like in an actual track, go check that out. Oops, okay. So there's a basic delay. We will come back to this later. It's kind of hard to, whenever you just have a basic melody playing like this on its own, it's kind of hard to find the resonant frequencies until you've already worked with the delay and reverb. So you do kind of work backwards. You First off, when you're working with a piano in particular, you want to do the delay and the reverb each on their own send channel, just so that the processing will be the absolute best. Because if you have everything just on the same channel, it can get kind of muddy, and it can become very difficult to EQ out all of the resonant frequencies. But anyways, we're gonna do the delay first. Add your EQ, and you'll see exactly why I like Pro Q. So we're just gonna throw down a little random thing, which we need a little EQ point, which we need. And the reason that I like Pro Q is because it lets you solo the frequency that this EQ is affecting. So if we play, see if you pay attention to the reverb or the delay, you can only hear the stuff that we have playing. Let me figure out how to get it to where we can only hear the reverb. Okay, there we go. So if we look at how these frequencies right here, like this one and these two, they kind of peak out, and whenever they play, you can see them kind of wiggling, which is a really weird way to describe it, but they peak up, they hit their peak, and then they kind of dip out a little slower than the regular frequencies. So if we move over here to this one, which is definitely a resonant frequency, and by the way, I know that this is a resonant frequency because I've done this so many times that I can recognize what it looks like on the EQ. So it's kind of hard to tell right now, but if you pay attention, maybe we can raise the volume on this. Um, it's kind of a harsh frequency. Keep pressing the wrong button. Okay, so you see it almost sounds like a sine wave because it's so resonant. So when you're listening to it, it'll almost sound like a sine wave. It has a really weird off-tune sounding frequency, and it will kind of have a random, it won't be stable in volume, obviously, because we're working with delay and reverb. So if we make this an even shorter EQ, so, and that sounds really harsh. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select this frequency that we've found, and we're going to lower the gain by about anywhere from 5 to 7 decibels. And see, this is just one frequency that we've gotten. So there's another one right here, which we can do. And that's a really bad one. This is another one, which I'll have to restart the pattern for because this note doesn't play too often. Nope, no. So resonant frequencies, one of the things that I've noticed that causes them is whenever you have a high release on any given sound, be it a synth or a piano, or maybe the release is just being caused by delay and reverb. When you have notes that play like notes that are playing really close together, and I'm not talking about how these are literally close together sideways, I'm talking about how they're close together on the actual piano. This one's a good example right here. So this is a C sharp, and then it goes to a C. So these notes are right next to each other on the piano. These notes are only 2 pitches apart, and because they do play pretty quick with each other. You have these 3 notes that hit, and their frequencies will kind of interfere with each other. Mostly when you add delay and reverb. Their frequencies will overlap with each other once the delay and reverb is taken into account, and that causes kind of nasty frequencies. So you EQ those frequencies out of the sound, and then you'll be left with something that sounds well mixed. Because most of our delay that we're going to hear on the track by the time all of our melodies and pads and drums are playing, most of the delay that we're going to hear on something like a piano or really prevalent plucks, we're mostly going to hear the stuff that's on the high end. And most of the resonant frequencies happen in like the high mids. So when you get rid of the resonant frequencies, you're not actually going to notice anything when everything's actually playing together. But it's still important to do because I'm stammering here. It will mud up your mix, and that can affect how your final master sounds. So we're going to add reverb now and see how that sounds. Go ahead and mute that. Actually, no, that's it. I'll use Valhalla Vintage Verb. Valhalla Shimmer is good for pianos, but I like the larger sound of Vintage Verb. So, give it really big reverb, because big reverb is nice on pianos. Go ahead and add more highs to it. And making this fully reverb, I just noticed, makes it sound depressing. So we can already see resonant frequencies going down right here. They peaked out, and then they're taking forever to kind of fade away. So they're pretty much in the same places as they were with the delay, but it's the resonant frequencies are worse. They're worse in the reverb, simply because the delay doesn't make a sound last for a continuous few seconds. It just hits. The sound just hits a few more times. It's just because of the differences between how reverb and delay works. So we can already see 4 right here, and I'll show you how that sounds. Focus right here. Just gonna go ahead and really horrible sounding, and there's 2 of the notes that just hit side by side. So you can hear that the sound is hitting, and it has a really unstable volume, and it's just an unpleasant sound. So we want to get rid of that. There's another one right here. There's actually 2 that are playing right here, but we can probably get rid of it with just one little EQ. So this one, so this is really just something that you have to do by ear. It's, resonant frequencies. So first, if you just look how these are going up and then down, and they're taking forever to decay as compared to the highs, which is also just part of the sound design. But resonant frequencies, out of every other part of the sound, will take the longest to decay. This stuff is muddiness right here, which you can just low cut in most cases. So, and see, we didn't. That's literally just inaudible frequencies that are coming from the original sound. There's no noticeable difference when you get rid of that stuff, but that will. Whenever you have frequencies that are showing up on EQ that you can't hear, you want to low cut them out. A lot of hat samples will, like hats, claps, whatever, will have these random strange frequencies that you can't hear at all. So you just make sure that you're low cutting everything. Anyways, so there's even more resonant frequencies right here. There's one right here that I'm noticing, and we can hear it. And that one sounds particularly horrible. No. So this one sounds horrible. Another way that you can decide, figure out that something is, and I've been touching up on this, is that the resonant frequencies sound bad. So, if you're watching this tutorial, you probably have no idea how to spot you probably won't immediately be able to recognize resonant frequencies right off the bat. So really just make use, like bring in an EQ down, make it take up as little space as needed. Hold down the headphones button, make sure that your pattern is playing, and then just kind of move it around. And that way you can figure out which ones need to be gotten rid of. There's one right here that I've missed. So another rule of thumb that we can go by is that if the frequency sounds horrible and that you wouldn't want people to hear it sticking out, and I've heard plenty of progressive house tracks where people didn't get rid of the resonant frequencies in certain sounds, and I'm sure a lot of people kind of don't notice it, but it can also kind of be hard on the ears sometimes. So this is a resonant frequency that you can barely hear, but we're cutting it out anyways because we don't want it to mud up the mix. There's another one right here. And then there's a bunch of little resonant frequencies right here. But by the time you start getting into the highs, they don't sound as bad on the ear. And you know, every frequency is going to resonate to some extent, but it's the ones that are the worst offenders that we want to get rid of, and that's usually in the mids to high mids. So I'm sure that if we were to check out one of these frequencies, like this one, this is obviously okay before it peaked out. Okay, I can't get it to freeze. But I'm sure if we checked one of these three that are poking out every now and then, they would probably be resonant frequencies. But with my ear, I'm not hearing any that sounds particularly bad. So we can just keep it. Output, stereo output. So whoops. So a lot of the frequencies that we got rid of in the reverb aren't even really visible in the delay, and that'll be even more the case in the original sample. It's kind of hard to solo that out, but you can see that these are peaking and taking a while to fade. So those are definitely resonant frequencies. So we'll turn these off and look at the original sample. The original sample will rarely require a lot of frequency canceling, I guess. We can see one right here, and I can actually hear some in this, but but it's ducking quickly because it's just the original sample. So where would we make an exception to making tons and tons of resonant frequency adjustments on an original sample is if you had like a synth similar to I don't know. Let's create something just as an example. So if we had something like this, which that sounds really fucking harsh on the ears, so let me add a low pass. So This sound has a really high release on it. If we look at the EQ, there are some resonant frequencies, and that will go up if we add. It'll go up first if we turn the retrig off in silent, but it'll also go up if we turn the detuning up. And now we've got a little bit of an 80s sound. Oops. So here's one. So this sound, we're oh whoops. You can't really tell that there's reverb on that, but this sound has a lot of release, and because of that, and it has detuning. So because of that, it has resonant frequencies. This is another resonant frequency. And then there's a bunch of other ones that we could get rid of. And if you're looking at a sound with a lot of release and you're like, I wonder which ones I should get rid of, especially because Lauren was too lazy to show which ones to get rid of in the main sound, just look at the part that I did on this reverb, because it's almost the exact same concept. The more release you have, the more detuning you have, the more resonant frequencies you'll have. The more reverb you have, the more delay you have, the more resonant frequencies you'll have. And always cancel. You always want to cancel the resonant frequencies after the reverb. So if you cancel the resonant frequencies and then you put a reverb below that, then your work is pretty much like completely wasted. So be aware of that. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like and subscribe. If you want to get in touch with me, get feedback on your tracks, interact with other producers that are in the melodic progressive house scene, be sure to join my Discord. Please check out my music. My SoundCloud's linked in the description. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye.